Thousands of mysterious photographs are captured every year. The majority of these get solved by online users, but some of them go unanswered. One online user just posted this image to social media, asking users what they make of it and whether they can identify it. The photograph was sent to an online group that focuses on mysterious objects and also strange weather phenomena that gets captured around our planet. And they asked what this thing is that could be seen hovering above our moon. The user detailed that they just purchased a telescope and decided to get it out and look at the moon. Once they set it up, they said they started running a program that helps photograph nearby celestial bodies, but said that they don't have the hang of it yet, and so decided to photograph the moon through their iPhone XS. The man said the following: "I often skywatch and decided that with the weather being nice, I'd get out the telescope. I own a Celestron, which is a pretty good telescope, especially if you just want to see the planets in our solar system. I have some great photographs of Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon. However, tonight I noticed that in some of the photographs there appeared to be a large-looking structure close to the moon, something that I've never seen before while stargazing. It definitely wasn't something like a satellite, a planet, or a meteor. All of these things move pretty quickly, especially things like planets when you line them up with a scope. Within a few seconds, they've moved out of frame. If I had to guess, I'd say that whatever this thing was stayed close to the moon for around 90 seconds. The majority of the photographs I took turned out blurry, but some of them were clearer than others. I'm not looking to start anything. I'm just wondering if anyone else saw this, or has seen something similar. Again, this couldn't have been something like a satellite or a planet, as all these things would have moved out of frame within seconds. The photograph got the interest of online users, who started to give their opinions on what the man captured, with some saying that it could have been a smudge on the lens, or perhaps a drone, while others went down the route of saying that he captured an unidentified flying object, saying that every year people manage to capture a mysterious-looking craft close to the moon. Other users said that they've seen strange things close to the moon, but didn't think much of it, writing it off as something natural. One thing that UFO researchers have said is that there's no shortage of these types of photographs, saying that every year regular people manage to capture strange things next to our moon. And what's interesting is that the majority of these people don't have an interest in this topic. They just manage to accidentally capture an interesting photo and just want answers for what it shows. Unfortunately, as with most of these photographs and encounters, not much information can be gathered. But with each new photograph, it does create an interesting discussion around the topic of UFOs, causing more people to go out there and do their own research. Back in 2015, NASA uploaded around 13,000 Apollo photographs online, but it didn't take long for amateur researchers to find some interesting anomalies in these photographs. One photograph that got shared on various websites was this one that was taken back in 1972. The photo in question was taken during Apollo 17 and shows the moon's surface nearby hills in the backdrop of space. However, when online users zoomed in to one section of the photograph, they discovered some strange-looking lights. Amateur researchers who first saw these said the lights in question were clearly in the shape of a triangle, and since being shared, various UFO researchers came out and suggested that NASA was being watched while on the moon. The lights can be seen in the top right-hand corner of the photograph, and when you zoom in, you can see that the lights were blue in color, and in the shape of a triangle. UFO researchers have long said that strange triangle-shaped crafts had been witnessed by humans for decades. However, amateur researchers that have looked into the phenomena have said this has been going on for a long time, saying that various photographs exist that show these strange triangle-shaped crafts. 99% of the photographs shared those show these objects on Earth, so how do you explain this object hovering above the moon? One believer said the following: UFO researchers have done some incredible work in recent years, and this is one of the gems that's been discovered in some of the older NASA photographs that's been shared. There's no denying that this object is clearly triangular in shape. Whatever this thing is, it matches the very same objects that's seen on our planet. End quote. Other researchers who have spent countless hours looking at old NASA photographs have said this is some of the best proof we have of these crafts on the moon. and go on to say that usually NASA edits out these objects and their images. But in this case, they likely forgot. This is one of the reasons why UFO researchers say the International Space Station is one of the best places to see UFOs. Because it's really hard for NASA to edit out these crafts that come into the camera's view. So what they do is shut off the live cams claiming that the signal got dropped. Skeptics, though, don't buy into the idea that UFOs can be seen above the moon and close to the International Space Station. Instead, they say the majority of these lights can be easily explained and that what people are seeing is things like lens flares and other debris that make their way in front of their cameras. Even NASA themselves have said these objects that people call UFOs are just space debris. When they get up close to the cameras, they can take on the appearance of a UFO. Stories about the paranormal interest many of us. For thousands of years, humans have talked about mysterious topics, and that humans may share this planet with something not quite human. The paranormal is a heavily debated topic, but if recent announcements have told us anything, it's that even our best scientists and officials have shown interest in this topic, and sometimes have not been able to give an explanation for certain events. Although there's a wide variety of places that can be haunted, some of the most common ones are said to be that of cemeteries, old buildings, or locations where something dark has happened. Any location that's at the center of a variety of stories is that of Oakland Cemetery. There's one particular reason why people tend to travel to this cemetery, and that's to see the large 8.5-foot tall Black Angel statue. Various stories have been shared about this location and the Black Angel, with some saying that it wasn't always black, and that although people have come in and scrubbed the angel, it will always return to its black color. Locals and researchers who know the area well reported that as soon as the statue arrived, strange things started to happen, and the overall feel of the location changed for the worse. The story goes that Teresa Duzzle had the statue created for her loved ones, but when she passed away, the statue took on a different feel, with some amateur researchers saying that this is why the statue turned black, and that during her life she was a mysterious woman, with one tale going on to say that the Black Angel stands to protect her, and that anyone seen disrespecting her will be marked. One claim states that the black color originally started with the eyes, with some people noticing that they turned jet black overnight. After this, the rest of the body quickly turned black. After the angel turned black, it wasn't long before people started to notice that strange things started to happen. One story details that any girl who is kissed within the angel's shadow will pass away within 6 months. This theme has continued, with one tale stating that anyone kissing the angel will pass away that same day, and anyone who touches the angel will be marked, and will live the rest of their life unhappy. Another claim is that only a girl who is pure of heart can kiss the statue and survive. There's been stories of people touching the angel as a dare, only for that individual to disappear, never to be seen or heard from again. In 2013, the TV show Haunted Highway went to the cemetery to do an episode on the Black Angel. While here they detected various anomalies that they weren't able to explain. One of them was that of a mysterious voice and also apparitions that could be seen around them. Next, they turned on their thermal cameras, only to discover that the Black Angel appeared to be glowing hot, something that they couldn't explain, as when they detected this, it was nighttime and cold. The Black Angel is said to be accompanied by a mysterious shadow figure, with investigators saying that on some occasions, it's not uncommon to see the shadow figure close to the statue. Some who've investigated the statue and the history around it have said it may be one of the family members and that they're protecting the area close to the angel, while others have suggested that the black shadow is a manifestation of the angel itself, and it does this so it can roam the cemetery freely. One person said the following about their visit to the cemetery. Me and my partner visited the Black Angel a few years back, and we certainly experienced our fair share of mysterious happenings. In one of the photographs I took of the angel, you can see in the background what looks like a dark figure. It wasn't actually me who saw it, but rather my partner once they were flicking through the images later that night. On top of this, the day after our visit, I woke up with a burning sensation on my back. When I asked my partner to take a look at it, he said there were 3 large scratches on my back. We don't have any pairs, and I can't explain how the cuts randomly appeared. The only thing we did prior to this was visit the Black Angel. I know that the paranormal isn't for everyone, but for me, I believe that the scratches and the visit are linked. Others have gone on to tell similar stories, saying that when they got close to the angel, they suddenly felt a deep pressure in their chest, got an instant headache, and would even be hit with a sudden spell of nausea. As of today, people continue to visit and research the mysterious Black Angel. The Howard Street Cemetery is located in Salem, Massachusetts. Howard Street forms a T-junction with Brown Street, where the Salem Witch Museum is situated, so in terms of setting, this cemetery is already a spooky one. Set amongst period Gothic Salem architecture, this cemetery lies ominously on an open, flat piece of land that is extremely atmospheric under the correct conditions. Many of the graves in the Halder Cemetery dates back to the early 18th century. Amongst them are Revolutionary heroes and sailors, but no witches lie in the ground of the cemetery, or at least this has never been verified. The site is said to have been the location of the execution of Giles Corey, a Salem farmer who famously refused to plead neither guilty nor not guilty when charged with being a witch in 1692. Corey was left for days under the crushing weight of the rocks piled on his back and eventually passed away. His remains are buried in the soil of what is now Howard Street Cemetery. Throughout the 1500s and 1600s, witch crazes and witch hunts were occurring all across the world. But although we know today that those accused of witchcraft are most definitely not witches, Giles Corey's story goes slightly against the norm. He allegedly placed a curse on the sheriff of Salem, and a few years later the sheriff suddenly passed away of a heart attack. Although that could have been just a coincidence. However, strangely enough, over the years a number of Salem sheriffs have been forced into retirement, and all suffered similar health issues, often to do with the heart. It's widely noted that doctors haven't been able to work out why these sheriffs have suffered these specific problems, almost as if they are the work of the supernatural. Researchers involved in the UFO and extraterrestrial phenomenon have been struggling against active efforts of cover-ups and forced silencing from unknown forces since the rise of the field of study at the turn of the 20th century. From the threats made against Alfred Bender to shut down the International Flying Saucer Bureau after several years of its successful establishment to the sudden exploration of whistleblowers. After some of them had come forward and admitted that the United States government had been working alongside extraterrestrial intelligences. The unknown forces at work that have continued their tactics throughout the years have been subtle and methodical in their strategies. That was until the expected release of the Calvine incident was delayed for declassifications for another 50 years, causing less subtle strategies to become far more obvious. According to experts studying unidentified flying objects in extraterrestrial encounters, the Calvin incident is considered to be the holy grail of UFO sightings, and its release into public access was a long-awaited moment for UFO enthusiasts. Scheduled for declassification on the 1st of January of 2021, the file reached the end of its 30-year classification guideline. That caused for the declassification of non-sensitive materials from the British Ministry of Defense after so much time has expired. One of our writers met Nick Popo a while back. Nick is an advocate for the alien awareness movement and a UFO researcher who identifies himself as the James Bond of the alien world. He used to work for the British Ministry of Defense from 1985 to 2006. Spanning more than 20 years of active deep state analysis of the extraterrestrial movement. According to Nick Pope, he had originally been made aware of the Calvine incident during his time working for a secret defense investigation team tasked with studying the cause of the mass sightings of unidentified crafts across British airspace. It was during this initial study of the file that Nick Pope declared the file to hold some of the greatest evidence for the existence of extraterrestrial aircrafts he'd ever seen, as the file contained several photos in high-quality resolution that showed not only a diamond-shaped UFO, but several military jets tracking the object in the sky. According to UFO researchers, the Calvin incident occurred over the Scottish Highlands on the 4th of August back in 1990. The story claims that there were two hikers traveling near Pitlochry, with the area of the specific sighting having occurred in Calvine in Highland, Perthshire. As they were hiking, they saw what is described as a large diamond-shaped object, estimated to have been between 75 to 100 feet in diameter, and was hovering over the highlands for around 10 to 15 minutes. While the object was hovering and observing the area, the hikers took several high-quality photographs of the craft, but depicted its outlines, its overall shape, and its unexplainable design. The reason for why the design of the craft is unexplainable is due to lacking any form of known propulsion. The craft lacked wings, propellers, jet engines, blades, or moving parts of any kind, and merely appeared to hover over the area while generating no sound whatsoever. As the two hikers continue to watch the massive craft, suddenly they witness British fighter jets come into view and begin circling the object. Wherever or not the jets fired at the object is unknown. After the jets entered the nearby airspace, the diamond-shaped unidentified aircraft suddenly began to ascend vertically thousands of feet per second and immediately disappeared from view. One of the hikers would snap a total of 6 pictures of the craft, and several of them showed the jets in view. Immediately following the incident, the British Royal Air Force would collect the witness statements from the hikers and their pictures to store in the Ministry of Defense file that was tasked with the study of the unknown craft. Researchers into the flying saucer phenomenon believe this response to be evidence of the MIB involvement, a secret deep state organization tasked with not only covering up evidence of extraterrestrial aircrafts, but also to actively suppress stories from ever taking place. This Men in Black interference can be further corroborated by a Scottish newspaper, who first received the images and the negatives from the hikers for verification and study, only to find them having been completely stolen and removed from the possession after a journalist contacted the Ministry of Defense for a statement. Despite this overwhelming evidence of a cover-up having taken place, and interference from a secret deep state organization, all government channels officially denied the event having taken place, claiming that not only was there no evidence of the Calvin incident, but that rumors of such photographs have never surfaced any such evidence, and had never existed in the first place, much to the disagreement of UFO researcher Nick Pope. The Ministry of Defense would later provide the statement that any reports or witness statements related to unidentified flying objects, or flying saucers were deemed as being no different significance. Meanwhile, Nick Pope would later provide a conflicting counterargument, saying the following: "We consistently downplay the true level of our interest in UFOs, while all the time behind closed doors we struggle to make sense of cases like the Carvine incident." Unfortunately, despite having seen the file in its entirety and being made aware of what the photographs depict, Nick Pope is unable to comment any further about the incident, as it has been classified under the 30-year rule of the Ministry of Defense. Eagerly waiting for its declassification, Nick Pope had scheduled a number of public announcements and prepared statements on the matter to provide further information for the flyer saucer research community. However, on the 1st of January of this year, the British Ministry of Defense would deny the declassification of the file, under the claim that its secrecy was a matter of national defense and was provided with a 50-year additional seal. This means for UFO researchers that the file was not expected to be released until 2071. However, researchers are certain that even by that point in time, the file will only be delayed once again, and continue to be delayed until it's released indefinitely. Nick Pope said that the deep state regulations encompassed nearly every possible avenue of information. Even the two hikers who had supposedly witnessed the event back in 1990 have completely disappeared, with many researchers fearing the worst. Stratholm remains hopeful that the witnesses will someday come forward, and has begun his own investigations into locating the two hikers. He would provide the following statement on the 50-year delay. "The cover-up speaks volumes when the government does that. They're trying to hide something. It's one of the most important sightings in Britain, if not the world. The pictures must be quite significant. If only we could get the two hikers to come forward. Back then, people might have been scared of the government, but I don't think they're scared now. No further information surrounding the incident is known, and the whereabouts of the two witnesses remains a mystery. So what do you make of the Calvine incident?" U.S. officials recently announced that mysterious objects had buzzed some of their Navy ships. At first, it was linked to possible drones, but after reading the logs and reports of those on board the ships, the objects turned out to be something entirely different. In fact, U.S. Navy officials said that the objects in question were highly advanced and that they'd likely come from the ocean. According to obtained Freedom of Information Act records, the documents revealed that 3 unmanned aerial vehicles bust 3 destroyers for several days. The mysterious aircrafts were described in the logs as unmanned aerial vehicles. And as of right now, it's not known what these unidentified crafts were. The documents state that 3 objects chased and flew circles around 3 U.S. warships, and this was off the coast of California back in 2019. With the reports going on to detail that one of these crafts was able to match the speed and bearing of one of these destroyers, and it did this for over 90 minutes. So far, all of this information has come directly from details released from the ship's logs. The USS Kidd was one of the ships that were approached by these mysterious objects. As of right now, many people are labeling these crafts as drones. In the official ship's logs that are described as being unidentified aerial crafts. The logs go into detail that as many as 6 of these crafts were observed flying around the ship, saying that these objects were seen performing brazen maneuvers. The log went on to detail the following. Kidd reported UAV. White light identified hovering over the ship's flight deck. 2 UAVs spotted off the starboard wing. 6 minutes later, 4 UAVs spotted off the stubbled bridge. End quote. Now, Avril Haines, America's top spy chief, has said that the objects that were detected around the warships could be of alien origin. Avril Haines, who is the director of the National Intelligence, and who also oversees 16 of the biggest U.S. spy agencies, including the FBI and the CIA, said that these objects are now of particular interest, and that as of right now they serve as a security threat towards the United States. The topic once again came up while Avril was speaking at the Our Future in Space event at the Washington National Cathedral, saying that while these crafts have been the subject of their theories, they are very much real, and they pose a threat towards the nation. In fact, the whole event was of particular interest. It's NASA Administrator Bill Nelson and Professor A.V. Loper also talking about advanced life forms. I have said that there's things that we don't understand about these objects and that we need to conduct further tests in order to better understand what these things are, where they're coming from, and what they want. She said the following. The main issue that Congress and others have been concerned about is safety of flight concerns and counterintelligence issues. There's also the question of, is there something else that we simply don't understand, which might come from extraterrestrially? She hesitated when she said the word extraterrestrially, leading a variety of theories to be put forward, from some saying that she didn't mean to say it, while others said that she might be giving us the first hints of these objects' true nature. It's been revealed that U.S. officials are looking to set up a permanent office so that they can investigate these objects properly. However, we continued with the following. We're pretty sure that we're not going to get to characterize every single one of these UAP reports in the various categories that we identified because, frankly, we weren't able to understand everything about it. A large portion of that is based on the fact that we don't have a consistent way of reporting this information. We need to integrate a lot of the data that we get. We need to get better at collecting information that's useful to us from different senses. And we need to deepen our analysis in these areas. And that's something that doesn't surprise you in the way that we approach our intelligence work. Interestingly, she also said that she would get fired if she told everyone what the coolest thing is that the intelligence services are doing in space. She ended by saying the following. The U.S. is committed to protecting access to and exploring space for a variety of nations. We recognize how important this is to our collective human prosperity. Many users said this is a great step forward in regards to having open discussions about what these crafts are, noting that for years officials had been downplaying them and that it's great that someone is finally opening up about what they are. This led to some sharing their opinion on the topic on social media. This person said the following, what about if we got the narrative on this all wrong? Perhaps U.S. officials have known about these crafts for some time now, but what if they don't know how they work or where they come from? What about if there's a lot of information missing that they just can't work out? How are you meant to tell a nation about something if you yourself don't know what it is or where it came from? It could be one of those situations where they're still trying to figure out the answers. End quote. As mentioned, Some have said that U.S. officials have known about these crafts for some time now, and that they've been seen by eyewitnesses around large bodies of water. Reports of these crafts go back years, with some even being detected by nuclear submarines that's been rigged with the most sensitive listing technology in the world. People who wish to remain anonymous have detailed their encounters with these crafts. In 2007, an eyewitness of the coast of Half Moon Bay in California claimed she had observed 3 objects while traveling on the cruise ship Dawn Princess, renamed in 2017 as Pacific Explorer. The witness said that the 3 objects came into view, all uniform with each other, evenly spaced in a line, parallel to the ship's hull and hovering just above the water's surface. The objects were nearly spherical and glowing in the sky, and appeared to stay in one place while the ship moved past them. They were hovering but didn't disturb the water just below them. Just as they went out of sight, the far left objects disappeared into the ocean. So would you make these recent comments by Avril Haines? And how she used the word extraterrestrial to describe these objects. Humans have been advancing our knowledge for as long as we have been on Earth. And the more we learn about the inner workings of our world, the more we learn that there's still much to discover. So today we'll be taking a look at these 3 recent discoveries. The ice fishermen imagine waking up on a cold, blustery winter morning in Minnesota and deciding to go ice fishing. The air is crisp and clear, the temperature well below freezing, and the nearby Lake Waconia has just recently frozen over for the winter season. It is prime time for some Arctic-style angling. This is precisely what one resident of Carver County, Minnesota decided to do on December 20th, 2016. That was the morning that would change his life forever. The ice fisherman packed up his gear and set out for a day of ice fishing. He was excited to participate in this Midwest tradition and had even purchased some fancy new gear to help make his experience all the more immersive. Among his new toys was an underwater camera that could be held beneath the ice and scanned for nearby fish. As he set up shop on the ice, he brought out his video camera and dropped it into the fishing hole he had carved into the fragile ice crust. As he scanned, he saw several varieties of his favorite fish, but the camera also picked up an object that was decidedly larger than any creature that lived under the ice. Nearly 1 month before, Andrew John Stifer, also a Carver County resident, had paddled out onto Lake Waconia before it froze over to indulge in one of his favorite pastimes, nature photography. His wife and 2 children were expecting him to arrive home that evening, but he never returned. A missing persons report was filed and an extensive search was launched by the Carver County Sheriff's Office. The search spanned the entire area around the lake and even included a highly trained dive team who were dispatched to search the very bottom of the lake. Andrew John Stifer was never found. That was until the ice fisherman took out his fancy new camera to scan for fish, only to discover the body of Mr. Stifer, frozen over and stuck beneath the ice. He promptly called the sheriff's department and notified him of what he had discovered. Divers were again dispatched to recover the body, and Lieutenant Patrick Berry was tasked with the unfortunate job of informing Mrs. Stifer and her 2 children that their beloved husband and father would not be returning home after this tragic accident. Bill Gates' venture aims to spray dust into the atmosphere to block the sun. Bill Gates, one of the most famous billionaires in the world, has been financially supporting the research of sun-dimming technology, which may theoretically reflect the sunlight trapped in the Earth's atmosphere back out to the cosmos, which would create a much-needed global cooling effect, helping us with the struggle of continuous global warming. The SCOPEX, or Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment, was launched by scientists from Harvard University who pondered on a way to assist our global struggle, finally coming up with a calcium carbonate dust spray which is notably non-toxic, and plan on spraying it into the air. Despite the great things this could bring, this has been an area of much controversy. Solar geoengineering is believed to be a science unworthy of pursuit, with many claiming it has many unforeseen hazards and could worsen the situation by creating a drastic shift in weather patterns that would only form more issues. Environmentalists also fear that using this as a quick fix would encourage unethical consumption of fossil fuels, which got us in this situation in the first place. Currently, the project is set to take an experimental step in June, when they will travel to Kiruna in Sweden with the permission of the Swedish Space Corporation, where they are going to launch a balloon carrying their experiment up 12 miles high. It will not spray any of the calcium carbonate this time around. It is going to be a scope to see whether the balloon is maneuverable and works well. The next step may be releasing actual sprays into the atmosphere to test whether the theory is correct and if it will indeed help us deal with global warming. No one truly knows what effect this spray or geoengineering experiments will have long-term on our planet. Only after it is released into the atmosphere will we be able to observe its effects. Not to mention there is much uncertainty regarding how much CaCO3 will be required to cool the greenhouse effect. There is a fear we may release too much and it could become a catastrophe. Freezing temperatures can cause atrocious famines and make ordinary survival difficult if we are not careful with how much CaCO3 is sent into the atmosphere. It could also cause more future refugee crises, with people all over the globe seeking shelter in countries with more stable temperatures. David Keith, a scientist, has suggested the formation of a risk pool to be used to aid smaller countries as compensation for any harm that may befall them from such experiments. But some consider it to be a cruel idea as money cannot replace lands lost as collateral damage should the land become inhabitable. Future plans for global geoengineering have been stopped in 2019 by various countries during a meeting of the United Nations, namely America, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia. In order for any proper progress to occur, there will need to be a global agreement, but considering all the risks, it seems the better alternative is for a bigger push towards renewable energy sources so that the usage of fossil fuels will stop. The world is full of revelations and transcendent discoveries, but no great discovery is made without the threat of sacrificing our morality, our very humanity, for the sake of technology. Researchers have grown human embryos from skin cells. Science is advancing at an exceptional rate. By reprogramming human cells found on our skin, biologists have managed to grow model versions of human embryos. This scientific breakthrough allows us the potential to learn more about developmental disorders, how to cure genetic illnesses, and maybe even could lead to solving infertility, specifically in the case of improving IVF treatments. Nature Today published a study that found that when you treat skin cells in a certain manner, they begin to transform into embryo-like structures. Jun Wu, the leader of a U.S.-Chinese scientific research group, reported such findings in his own studies, referring to early forming embryonic structures named blastocysts. Once again, as with each scientific breakthrough that occurs, we must ask ourselves whether the way forward is or is not moral. Is it morally correct for us to play with life, as it would give us the power to have live models of human embryonic development? Or is it wrong, unjust, and horrific? In the last 5 decades, we found out an immense amount of information regarding how organs work, primarily due to the progress in stem cell research wherein scientists could produce human organs from human tissue outside the body. It is these organoids, miniature faux organs grown with the usage of our tissue, that let us know what happens to victims of the Zika infection and has granted us infinite medical knowledge that is priceless. It is also due to these studies that we have our current advanced ways of dealing with cancer, which we would not have without the arguably morally gray investigations. Whilst the skin cell embryos could show us how embryos form and the very basic early developments that occur during the first stages of pregnancy, they cannot give us insight into the complex specifics of what happens in the womb. After all, the lining of the uterus is required to establish a long-term pregnancy, but these models might still provide us with the answers we seek. An important thing to keep in mind is that these model embryos are not actual human embryos in the traditional sense. Whether they could be turned into actual embryos is regardless of the fact these are not real embryos with the potential to grow into babies. Many countries have strict laws when it comes to embryonic research. What do you make of these 3 discoveries? Sometimes keeping up with all the goings-on in the scientific world can be exhausting, especially as new discoveries are constantly being announced in seemingly every field imaginable. From nuclear energy to dinosaurs to global warming in Antarctica, several new discoveries and announcements have been made recently that are worth paying attention to. So today, we will be looking at 3 of the most exciting recent scientific releases and what they mean for their respective fields. generating nuclear energy similar to that of a star. The search for the next breakthrough invention for clean energy has driven dozens of scientific research and experiments throughout the past decade. As scientists concerned with the effect of non-renewable energy on our planet drive the search for a more sustainable option, it seems that they are reaching for the stars quite literally. Driven by fusion reactions as two atoms fuse nuclei together and release a celestial burst of energy. This energy-generating process has long been an inspiration to scientists investigating alternative energy. But the problem is that when fusion occurs in a lab, the energy required to fuse the two molecules is much greater than the resulting release. To solve this problem, researchers have been searching for ways to achieve ignition, meaning the burst of fusion energy is greater than the energy, and it seems that they might be one step closer to achieving this massive feat. Physicists at the National Ignition Facility at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California recently conducted experiments that attempted to trigger ignition using an astonishing 192 laser beams aimed at a fuel pellet of heavy hydrogen. The result inclusion, while not reaching true ignition status, still emitted 1.35 megajoules of energy, which at 70% of the inputted energy was the closest that any lab has come to ignition yet and is 25 times greater than the next highest record of energy emission, which was set 3 years previously. And despite not qualifying as true ignition, this breakthrough is massively important in the quest for slowly decreasing energy input while increasing energy output in order to reach a net gain of clean, reproducible nuclear energy. Additionally, not only will the findings help researchers to adjust their own experiments in order to keep advancing the field of nuclear physics research, but the potential for the ability to create energy conditions so similar to the self-fueling explosions that occur in a star means that nuclear components of the cosmos and the conditions that they create can likely now be studied in even greater detail. Jeremy Chittenden, a physicist at Imperial College London, has even indicated that it might be useful in studying the conditions of the cosmos in the immediate aftermath of the Big Bang, leading to a better understanding of the way that our universe was formed. As far as relying on the ignition reactions as a source of clean energy, scientists believe that the key lies in the ability to achieve self-sustaining burn of the plasma, where the heat released from the fusion reactions becomes fuel for more fusion reactions, continuing in a perpetuating cycle. This cycle would exponentially increase the energy yield of the reaction. And these latest experiments from the National Ignition Facility prove that research is bringing us ever closer to being able to achieve such a goal. However, for now, the experiments are still undergoing the peer review and publication process, and it remains to be seen what valuable information analysis of the data will yield. 2 new species of dinosaurs discovered on the Isle of Wight. One of the most fascinating aspects of paleontology and the study of the mysterious world in which dinosaurs lived and roamed is the fact that we will likely never know of every single species that walked, flew, or slithered across the earth, and new species are constantly being uncovered. Most recently, 2 new species of carnivorous Spinosaurus dinosaurs were discovered, leading to fascinating insight about the species as a whole and how they migrated over time in order to spread across the globe before their ultimate extinction. Dating back an estimated 129 million years, the 2 skeletons were dubbed riverbank hunter and hell heron, based on the environment in which they were estimated to have lived and were surprisingly intact, allowing researchers and scientists to develop valuable insight about this common yet still mysterious species. Although spinosaurids are found across the world, the skeletons are usually greatly fragmented and incomplete, making it hard to get a true picture of the body mechanics of the species that would allow us to make educated guesses about how they lived and hunted. However, this research expedition, which was led by scientists from the University of Southampton and published in Scientific Reports, uncovered extraordinarily intact examples of the 2 species, including such trademark elements as the skulls and tails. These will allow further research to be conducted into how these different species interacted with their environments and hunted their prey. The first specimen, part of the group Rhiperventurmilnera and called riverbank hunter, appears to have relied primarily on fish for its diet due to trademark features of its teeth and body shape. The other specimen, which appears to have been closely related to the riverbank hunter and likely roamed the earth at the same time, is part of the group Ceratocochops inferidios and called hellheron horned crocodile face, and was likely a wetland dweller who relied on that habitat for its food and shelter. Although the two large predators are suspected to have been inhabitants of the region at the same time, it is likely that they hunted different prey, lived in different environments in the same region, or were active at different times of the day or night, so that two such large dinosaurs could coexist together. The two specimens, which were both two new spinosaurid species, also provide valuable information about the diversification and spread of the spinosaurids across the world during the age of the dinosaur. After initial studies, researchers believe that spinosaurids likely originated in the region that is now modern-day Europe, slowly migrating and spreading east and south throughout Africa, and evolving into the variety of species that slowly mutated to fit into the new environments like the riverbank hunter and the hell heron. Paleontologists are still excavating the Isle of Wight regions in hopes of finding even more telling clues that can provide information about the origins and fate of such a mysterious but prevalent dinosaur species. Antarctica's ice shelf eroding global warming is no new phenomenon, and the effects of it only seem to be getting worse, at least according to scientists who have been studying the cause of the massive A68 iceberg split that occurred in 2017. The alarming rift happened on Antarctica's Larsen C ice shelf and resulted in an iceberg the size of Delaware splitting off from the main formation. This significant ice event was then thoroughly studied. The cause was attributed to the thinning of the ice melange, which is a layer of slushy-like frozen water that typically seals any rifts that occur and keeps the ice shelf intact. Because this has huge implications for the severity of further impacts of global warming on the delicate Antarctic region, scientists and glaciologists quickly began studying the ice melange layer more closely, and what they found was concerning. After careful analysis of 11 cracks in the Larsen C ice shelf, the same one that the A68 iceberg split from in 2017, they were able to conclude that the thinning ice melange was unable to keep up with the ice shelf, widening one of the rifts in question from 249 feet to 367 feet and growing. The melange layer is a layer of muddy, frozen water that sits between the ice shelf and the ocean water that circulates beneath. A thick melange layer can help protect the ice shelf from rifts that could form, but when it thins, the much warmer ocean water hits the melange layer and causes rifts in the ice shelf above. This follows the hydrofracturalization theory, which explains how water can penetrate ice shelf cracks and expand as it refreezes, causing large enough cracks to form in the ice shelf that massive icebergs break off. The ice melange works as a buffer to protect this action, but it appears to be thinning, leading to an increase in iceberg deliveries in Antarctica. The particularly concerning aspect of this discovery is that the ice shelves have been hypothesized to prevent glaciers from entering the ocean, and the continued fracturing of the ice shelf into glaciers means that the sea levels will likely rise much faster than anticipated as a result of global warming. The studies utilized observations from NASA's ice sheet and sea level system model, with as well as images captured from satellites of the formation of Antarctic icebergs. Eric Lignot, who co-authored the study that explored the reasoning behind the A68 iceberg split and the resulting consequences of the thinning ice melange, said in a statement that the thinning of the ice melange that glues large pieces of floating ice shelves is another way that can cause a rapid retreat of ice shelves in Antarctica due to climate change. With this in mind, we may need to rethink our estimates of the timing and extent of sea level rise due to the loss of polar ice, which can be faster and more impactful than expected. For now, studies continue to monitor the concerning effects of climate change in Antarctica. But what do you make of these three recent releases? The search for life outside our planet continues. Scientists have said that microbial life could exist within our solar system, saying that microorganisms and extremophiles could exist out in the far reaches of space. One place that solved particular interest is that of Saturn's moon Enceladus. According to NASA's official website, Saturn has 82 moons, and another 29 moons are awaiting confirmation of discovery and official naming. Not much was known about Enceladus until Voyager 1 did a flyby. After this, the Cassini spacecraft passed nearby and enabled us to study the almost all-ocean moon in much more detail. Enceladus may seem insignificant when compared to Saturn's larger moons, such as Titan, has been at the center of a number of theories. Almost completely covered in ice, Enceladus has an enormous ocean underneath that icy crust that is home to some of the most interesting recent scientific discoveries. In late 2019, a team of scientists announced they had found what's described as an organic molecule thought to be essential for the development and presence of life. Head scientist Dr. Kawaja and his team were analyzing data collected from the core of Enceladus. This was collected by the Cassini spacecraft when they found a tiny organic compound that they said would be found deep in the ocean. This compound is found in amino acids that are also found on Earth, and this indicated that this moon of Saturn could be a likely candidate for life. As mentioned, the majority of Enceladus is covered in ice, but has an ocean that lurks just beneath it, sharing certain similarities with Earth's poles. Enceladus ice sheets release vapor and ice grains through any slight crack in the ice surface, and this is due to hydrothermal activity. The ice grains that are released have been key during this discovery, as that's where the molecule discovered was found. This molecule that's made up of nitrogen and oxygen released through the cracks of Enceladus' surface is also found on Earth in essentially the same way. Earth's hydrothermal activity causes vents to release similar molecules. Further exploration and research missions are currently in the works in order to try and understand everything we can about this incredible moon. These research missions will hopefully uncover more about Enceladus, as we don't really know the extent of what other essential molecules and signs of life there could be. Scientists have suggested that within its dark oceans, eyeless creatures could exist, relying on senses other than their eyes to navigate. Scientists said that life needs energy, but said that Enceladus is an active moon, having all the right things for life to exist. NASA said the following on their website: since the ocean in Enceladus supplies the jets and the jets produce Saturn's earring, to study material in the earring is to study Enceladus oceans. The earring is mostly made of ice droplets, but among them are peculiar nanograins of silica, which can only be generated where liquid water and rock interact at temperatures over 200 degrees. This, among other evidence, points to hydrothermal vents deep beneath Enceladus' icy shell, not unlike the hydrothermal vents that dot Earth's ocean floor. With its global ocean unique chemistry and internal heat, Enceladus has become a promising lead in our search for worlds where life could exist. End quote. Astrobiologist Dr. Kirschbaum said the following: the pressure and temperature differences between the Enceladus ocean floor and the ice cap above must be tremendous. In a dark subterranean world, perhaps like the underground oceans of Enceladus, vision may be totally absent, and eyeless creatures could evolve a perfectly competent and rich communication using sound alone. End quote. Scientist Christine Ray said the following: the detection of molecular hydrogen in the plume indicated there is free energy available in the ocean of Enceladus. We compare our free energy estimates to the ecosystems on Earth and determine that overall our values for both aerobic and anaerobic metabolisms meet or exceed minimum requirements. These results indicate that oxygen production and oxidation chemistry could contribute to supporting possible life and a diverse microbial community on Enceladus. End quote. Scientists have said that Enceladus is the only confirmed current habitable environment beyond Earth, and hope that NASA and other space agencies will investigate this moon further. Technically, though, we do have proof of life outside our planet, but this is because of humans. Back in 2019, an Israeli spacecraft tried to land on the lunar surface. However, the mission didn't go to plan, and the spacecraft ended up crash landing into the moon. This mission occurred on the 11th of April back in 2019, and now researchers are saying the lunar surface could be filled with tiny creatures. The original idea was to land a robotic lander that had tardigrades on it. Due to the unfortunate event, though, it's not known if these small creatures survived, but scientists have said it's very likely due to how resilient they are. Scientists have called them extremophiles, due to them being able to survive in such harsh conditions. And one of the things that researchers are doing right now is studying these creatures to see if we can replicate what they do. If we were able to take some of the tardigrades' abilities and place them in a human, it would make us much more superior. At the moment, the human body is not great at handling harsh conditions. In fact, for humans to survive in an environment, everything has to be exactly right. It's been estimated that tardigrades have been around for over 500 million years, meaning they outlived the dinosaurs. Recently, scientists were taking samples from a subglacial lake in the Antarctic. After getting the samples tested, they made an unexpected discovery. The team had discovered tardigrades, with them saying they've never been found in this location, and it's still a mystery as to how they ended up there. Regardless, it shows us just how resilient these incredible creatures are. A man by the name of Adhar just posted this image, saying that thousands of birds suddenly fell from the sky in India. Adhar didn't give away his location, but did say it happened close to Maharashtra, saying that the birds could be heard in the sky and could be seen flying around in circles before they started dropping one by one. The man continued and said that people were taking photographs of the event, but couldn't understand what was going on and why the birds were acting the way they were. Worryingly, Maharashtra officials reported that hundreds of birds had passed away in a similar manner, saying that samples were sent to the National Institute of High-Security Animal Diseases and Pune's Animal Disease Investigation Center. The government has said the birds are healthy and shouldn't affect people's eating habits, but the question that still remains is, why are these birds falling out of the sky? And why is this happening in other locations across our world? One resident close to the region said the birds suddenly started acting strange and that they went outside due to all the noise that the birds were making, saying that this isn't something they've heard or seen before. After observing the birds for around 10 minutes, they said that some of them did fly off, but the majority of them looked depleted, as if they'd been shot by something. And one by one they started to fall from the sky. What's odd about this is that they said that birds looked healthy and visually couldn't see anything wrong with them. This isn't the first time that residents from India have reported such an incident. In fact, back in 2020, thousands of birds were found on the shore of India's biggest saltwater lake. Over 2,500 birds were found in the region, all of which seemed to have suffered the same fate. Rather warily, this happened during the same time as the other muskbird die-offs. During the months of December 2019 and January and February 2020, various people across the planet have reported that a huge number of birds were found, all of which passed away under mysterious circumstances. It's not known what took the birds' lives, although a variety of different explanations have been put forward to try and explain what's going on. Some suggested that all these cases come down to natural phenomena, saying that these birds likely got hit with something such as hailstones or other atmospheric conditions. However, this doesn't explain the most recent event that happened in India, with residents saying that there was no atmospheric conditions that would have affected the birds so much that they would fall from the sky. With others following on from this as saying that it was like the birds were hit with something mid-air and it caused them to fall to the ground. During 2020, it was reported that the amount of bird deaths in India was actually wrong, and instead of there being 2,500 birds, officials said the number was as high as 5,000. Indian authorities started to investigate what had happened, with them saying that different species have become victims to the event. One official told the BBC the following: "We're counting the dead birds. They are strewn over the entire area around the lake. Some 20 to 25 birds who are still alive are being treated. At this moment, we suspect there was some level of toxicity and high levels of salt in the drinking water. We are also looking at other possibilities." However, a local birdwatcher came forward and said that nothing has ever happened like this in the region, and that he thinks there's more to it, further saying that the birds were very distressed by something in the area. As of right now, no one really seems to know what's going on with these animals and why it's only affecting birds. Various theories have been put forward, which range from the Earth's magnetic field to global warming and cell phone towers being installed and tested in the regions. Interestingly, some people have announced that after these towers have been erected, various types of wildlife from the region have started to act strange. This isn't just some out-there theory either. According to the website Little Peckers, a site that specializes in bird health, they said the following: in May 2018, the EU-funded review body conducted an analysis of 97 studies. It concluded that radiation from mobile phone towers, Wi-Fi, and broadcast transmitters is a potential risk to insects and bird orientation. The magnetic orientation of birds, mammals, and insects could be disrupted by magnetic fields. The authors of the review have emphasized the need to enhance our knowledge of EMFs and their impact on wildlife. 237 scientists have now appealed to the United Nations, asking for the risk to be taken more seriously. Electromagnetic fields produce radiation, and airborne species are at greater risk of being exposed to this. In addition, birds' feathers act as receptors of electromagnetic radiation. Studies have suggested that this radiation may cause psychological stress and reduce birds' ability to recover from such stress. Radiation could also be causing psychological issues, including mutated embryos. End quote. Recently, many of these birds have passed away near recently installed towers, causing some to question whether these things are affecting these birds. One person that lives close to one of these towers, and who's an avid birdwatcher, said it would explain the strange circling that's been observed, saying that these towers seem to have a direct effect on these birds, and it's almost like it's confusing them. While another person said the following, "I've seen videos of these birds flying close to these towers and it seems to be messing them up. I'm not going down the rabbit hole of what some people believe. These are just my observations. I've seen this happen firsthand, and the only thing I could see within the immediate area was one of these towers. So I think that they're having some kind of effect on these burns." End quote. As of right now, officials and companies who are installing these towers have said they have nothing to do with it, and various tests have been carried out that show these things are 100% safe and are not behind what's happening to these burns. They continue to say that they're completely safe. Being an officer in this day and age isn't easy. They have to be ready for the unexpected. Call-outs, though, don't always go the way they think they will, and in some cases, officers have been left wanting answers for what they just encountered. People posted some questions online, asking officers to detail the strangest call-outs they responded to. One person said the following, "My dad was a cop and I've never forgotten this story he told me. My dad was always someone who was straight to the point, was never one to make up stories, and always told the truth. He said that the station got a call and was asked to investigate an old home in the woods, saying that a woman was very shaken as she thought that someone had broken in. My dad, though, said it didn't bother him, and these sorts of calls often came in. He told the woman to stay upstairs and the door shut until they arrived. Him and a buddy went to investigate their house and said that once there she told them that her husband had been woken up from noises coming from downstairs. At this point, though, the woman didn't tell them where the husband was. My dad was checking out the property and said that a tall figure walked past him in a room to his left. The room had no lights on, but he just assumed that it was the husband. He called out to the person but didn't get a response, not thinking a lot of it as it was late at night when the call-out was made. He continued looking through the downstairs of the house, but didn't find anything. As he walked towards his officer and the woman, though, he noticed the husband walking down the stairs, and my dad said this immediately gave him chills. He quickly turned around to his partner and said that someone else was in the house, and that they were in the room behind them. As they ran in the room, no one was there. My dad was sure of what he had seen, and said he could clearly see the outline of a human walk past him. He said the figure was around 6 foot, and that it looked like it had a black robe on, noting that it reminded him of a dressing robe. Both my dad and the officer checked the house thoroughly, but didn't find anything. My dad told me that he insisted that they inspected the house several times over, as he was sure that he saw something. But each search turned up nothing. He said that the owners were shaken up even more than before, and said this isn't the first time that they've heard strange noises throughout the house. He said that nothing like this has ever happened since, and that he has no idea what it was he saw. When I've asked my dad about it in the past, he says he doesn't really like talking about it. I can tell that it affected him, as he's someone who doesn't bite into the paranormal, and he said that he spent countless hours trying to figure out what it was he saw. My dad is retired now, and has said that he can't explain what he encountered that night. I've told a few people about this encounter, and they seem to be of the opinion that my dad encountered a shadow person. saying that the details match up with other similar encounters. Another officer detailed his encounter, though this case is more sad than spooky. He said the following: "Our department had received a call from a neighbor saying that a lady lived a few doors down and that she was practicing black magic. They said that she has ties to dark things and that we should be careful when we go there." The original phone call was made due to a noise complaint, with the neighbors saying that they could hear her screaming and chanting in a strange language. I was the officer that was sent down there to investigate, and I've never really taken much notice of the paranormal. I wouldn't call myself a believer or a non-believer. I'm an open-minded kind of person. So I turned up at this house and it does look creepy from the outside. The lights were switched off and I could see her face behind the curtain. I knocked on the door and didn't really know what to expect. When the door opened though, this elderly woman slowly looked through the crack of the door. I explained the situation to her and that there had been a noise complaint. She seemed confused by this and offered me in for a drink. I entered and thought that perhaps by talking to her I could get to the bottom of what was going on. We get chatting and everything seems fine. She then re-offers me a drink and goes into the kitchen to make it. Everything seems okay inside the house. It was a little run down, but looked like any household an old woman had been living in. She comes in and starts laughing and then starts talking to someone else in the room. The problem being that it was just me and her. I asked her who she was talking to and if everything was all right. She told me that it's nothing and that she talks to herself because her husband had passed away and that her family doesn't visit her anymore. She said that it helps her get through the days. I definitely wasn't expecting this, and it even choked me up a little. We talked for the next hour and she seemed fine. The only thing I could make out was that she was lonely. But this was the start of an ongoing friendship, and I often went around and visited. I really enjoyed the time I spent with her, and think that she just created these people in order to make herself feel less lonely. Little did I know that when approaching her house, I would learn one of the most important lessons in my life. Always reach out to family and visit, even if it's quickly. All this woman needed was someone to talk to." End quote. So what do you make of these stories? Even the most experienced officers have, on occasion, been truly baffled by the weird, or in some cases, altogether disturbing things they've experienced. These photographs have made their way online, showing what appears to be a mysterious creature moving around in the forest. The pictures were then picked up by a few websites that investigate strange creatures, but they were able to offer little information in regards to what it was, or who took the images. The only details that have emerged since being uploaded was that it was captured in either Argentina or Brazil, and that the eyewitness didn't want to be contacted in fear of being the individual who recorded the creature can be seen filming through their window, and the creature can be seen in the background moving through some dense rubbery. The people who have seen the photographs have said that it resembles a large hairy man, being around 7 foot and weighing at least 350 pounds, while other commenters said the creature resembles a large wolf man, saying that the areas around Brazil and Argentina are full of stories of large wolf men. This even got to the point that many residents will outright refuse to walk the streets during the night, in fear of encountering one of these creatures. There's a brief moment where the creature catches the person filming it and looks directly into the camera, giving us a good view of its face. Although the creature looks to have a humanoid-like face, it definitely doesn't match that of a human. In some instances, police have been called in to investigate these strange sightings, as residents in various towns across Brazil refused to go out during the night, and which eventually led to a nighttime curfew being imposed. Those who live in Brazil swear by what they're seeing, and have said although these creatures are definitely rare and aren't sighted very often, when you do see one, fear completely takes over. These beings are said to bear grayish-black hair all over its face and body, and have a stature of over 8 feet. Every measure to learn more about the creature was inconclusive. For example, a hair sample from the creature was sent to a Sasquatch Bigfoot research group, but the results came back as inconclusive. Bigfoot groups have said this due to results like these that's led them to believe that something is out there. Or on another occasion when the creature's footprints were investigated. The police came to the disappointing conclusion that they must have belonged to a strange-looking man. However, those who have seen the creature strongly refuted any claim that it was a human. They described its movement as walking on all fours, and its face so horribly distorted that it was far more relatable to a monkey or an ape than a human. Although some residents did say that on a number of occasions they did see it walk on two legs, and said it easily tiled above them. Over the years, there have been multiple sightings of the creature. The sightings began decades ago when children would report seeing a monster in the forest. It wasn't until CCTV was installed and adults started to see this thing that the stories gained traction. Who spotted the creature would call it a canine humanoid, saying that it would often be seen throughout the nearby forest, but it would also come close to their houses during the nighttime. The appearance of the creature was so chilling that those who saw it swore to never leave the house again, and eventually led to parents not letting their children out of the house during certain times. Police reports were made by those living in these areas, demanding an answer for what this thing was. One man called in and described how he'd seen the creature perching on a railing near his home, and then spontaneously dropping 17 feet to the ground with a perfect landing. Even a group of soldiers were left traumatized when they spotted a creature speeding past them. Unsurprisingly, not everyone has accepted the existence of a werewolf, and there's many who insist that the sightings and panic were caused by a hoaxer, and that they were dressed in a werewolf costume. They claimed that there were reports of a teenage boy at the time who was known for wearing a mask and jumping out of bushes to scare people. Additionally, there were reports that a police officer had found a mask and that he was laughing to himself about the reports. However, some have said that the police were aware of what was going on, and to make people feel better, they took a photograph of a police officer with a fake mask. Although this creature has been seen throughout various eras of Brazil, different countries have also reported a similar-looking creature, with Michigan having the dogman, a creature that's said to closely resemble that of a werewolf, and North America having the Bigfoot, a large ape-like creature that's said to stand over 8 feet tall. What's interesting about these creatures is that they've all been seen by everyday people for hundreds of years. Or throughout history, there's been reports of strange creatures that don't resemble that of a human. And even the military have released documents showing that they've investigated these sightings. As of right now, those scientists have said there's no proof of these creatures. And the most likely answer for what's being seen is either a shadow or someone's trying to prank people. They say that if these creatures were genuine, there would be more sightings. Although scientists have come to this conclusion, there's still many people throughout Brazil that believe in these claims, and that will take the necessary precautions when going out at night. So what do you make of these interesting photographs? And what do you think this creature is? Whether we are making groundbreaking research that will give us answers for future research projects, or we are taking a look into the past to uncover how we, as a society, got to where we are today, research into both the past and future develops our understanding in the present. So today, we will be taking a look into 3 interesting discoveries, which marks are removed from a medieval UK church to make way for a high-speed railway. Countless horror and thriller films have taught us not to move into spooky old houses, not to trap yourself in a corner when running away, and not to build on top of ancient ruins. For some, it seems this advice has not been taken to heart. HS2 Limited is one company that is plowing on ahead with their new project, unconcerned by the popular horror film tropes. HS2 Ltd is planning on continuing their high-speed rail project over the ruins of a medieval church. Their high-speed railway is being implemented throughout the UK, though some suggest they would be wise to divert the tracks to avoid this supposedly haunted church. Stoke Mandeville, a village in Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire, England, is home to the impressive St. Mary's Church, which has stood since 1070 for more than 900 years. In its prime, St. Mary's was a private chapel for the Lord of Stoke Mandeville, though later in the 1340s there was an expansion so that more local villagers could use the space. The next chapter of this building's rich history was it unfortunately being torn down as a new church was built further into the town. In the 1860s, St. Mary's was demolished. But this is not the end of this church's story. The site saw an early excavation which uncovered a series of stone beams, some with peculiar circular patterns carved into them. These unusual etchings resemble the spokes of a wheel with holes drilled into the middle of the pattern and on each spoke. Experts revealed that these were indeed witch marks intended to protect individuals from negative spirits. Project officials explained that these marks ward off evil spirits by entrapping them in an endless line or maze. It was then Michael Cott, lead archaeologist for this HS2 limited research, who described the markings as a fascinating insight into the past. These witch marks have the potential to provide a great deal of information to us about the beliefs and superstitions of the past. During the first HS2 limited excavation, it was reported that the church had some sections of it that remained in good condition considering its history and age. The reports show that some walls stood as tall as 5 feet even today, and that some floors were also still preserved. The witch marks themselves were found in 2 different stones, one at ground level and the other much higher. Some possible explanations for the use of the marks, besides witch marks, were ruled out due to their location. For example, the circular pattern could not have been used as a sundial, as it was not by a southern door. St. Mary's is not the only site that has seen these peculiar witch markings. A number of other medieval buildings throughout the UK have had witch markings discovered from inside them. One of these was a limestone gorge and cave complex known as Crestwell Crags, which has had occupants drift in and out since the last ice age. Throughout the numerous sites that they have been found in, it seems as though these marks are carved into stones by doorways, windows, and fireplaces to prevent the spirits from getting into the building at all. In the end, the spirits did not wreak enough havoc to save St. Mary's Church. So while there are still witch marks that are intact, above this old church now stands the high-speed railway line. Scientists say that a cosmic impact destroyed Jordanian city. I'm sure that plenty of us are familiar with the biblical story Dom, discussed in the book of Genesis. Sodom and Gomorrah, 2 towns known for their wickedness and sin, were destroyed by God. It is one of a number of Bible stories detailing God's anger that was provoked by sin. These 2 cities in particular were destroyed with the rain of fire and brimstone. Other details include angels saving Lot, though as he leaves with his 2 daughters, his wife is turned into a pillar of salt. Scientists have been studying the demise of an ancient city, Tal el-Hammam, an archaeological site in Jordan, and this is where they may have found an astronomical explanation for this biblical tale. This newfound evidence is actually 3,600 years old, but it seems to suggest that Tal el-Hammam was ruined by what is being described as a cosmic airburst. Some researchers, having found this evidence, think that the biblical story of Sodom could have been inspired by the celestial impact upon Tel el-Hammam. After all, something from space that causes bricks and clay to melt does sound suspiciously similar to a rain of fire and brimstone. What was once pottery had been melted into glass, and building materials melted beneath a burn layer of 5 feet in depth. James Conant, one author of the paper detailing the cosmic impact, said, "We saw evidence for temperatures greater than 2,000 degrees Celsius. He continued to elaborate, saying that the biggest surprise in this discovery is the shocked quartz. This produces sand grains that can only form under intense amounts of pressure. Quartz is one of the hardest minerals. This is a rather rare occurrence. This was in keeping with cosmic air bursts from 1908 in Siberia, leading many to believe that Tal el-Hammam also saw a cosmic air burst. Another noteworthy link between Sodom and Tal el-Hammam is the salt. In the biblical tale, Azalot and his family are led away by angels. They are told not to turn around and look. His wife does, against the advice of the angels, and turns into a pillar of salt. There was an abnormal concentration of salt, suggesting there was an impact close by. Kennett explains that salt was thrown up due to the high impact pressures, possibly meaning the meteor hit the Dead Sea. So far, scientists have confirmed that the details in Genesis align with the cosmic airburst and that currently the evidence at Tal el-Hammam aligns with that of Sodom. Scientists find strange blobs on Uranus. As with many planets and processes in space, Uranus has an unexplained phenomenon that has been confusing scientists. The planet's atmosphere is abundant in gases, including, for example, methane, but no ammonia has been observed. The same is true of Neptune. Now, however, scientists think they may have cracked the code. On the surface of Uranus and Neptune, a number of strange blobs described as mushy have been observed. The blobs, which are being referred to as mush balls, appear to contain large volumes of gas. These mush balls are slushy and, according to a press release on the research, are made with ammonia and water. The so-called mush balls can also be referred to as hail balls, as they have been likened in physical appearance to a large muddy hailstone. Some have theorized that the peculiar mush balls could be why astronomers cannot detect ammonia in the atmosphere. If the ammonia is restricted to solely the mush balls, then the gas could be present without being detected. Jupiter is another planet that seems to house some mush balls. Here, however, scientists have observed a different trend. On Jupiter, the mush balls transport the ammonia into the atmosphere, where clouds form, preventing detection of the gas. Catch here is that ammonia is then detected much deeper into the atmosphere than when we expect could naturally occur. Tristan Gullo, a planetary scientist whose team presented their mushball study at the Europlanet Science Congress 2021, explained that we have gained this information thanks to the Juno spacecraft. He stated, "The Juno spacecraft has shown that in Jupiter, ammonia is present in abundance but generally much deeper than expected, thanks to the formation of mushballs." Scientists hope that by studying other planets, such as Jupiter, we will be able to gain more answers regarding Uranus and Neptune, though we still do not know much about Neptune and Uranus compared to other planets in our solar system. Neither planet has been explored or visited since 1989, when NASA's Voyager 2 mission flew past the two mysterious planets. We can continue to develop our technology on the ground and conduct research from here on Earth, though the results are not quite the same as the high-tech outer space technology we are seeing in spacecrafts like Juno exploring Jupiter. Hopefully, over the coming decades, we will be able to unravel precisely what is happening on Uranus and Neptune, though for now we will be taking educated guesses as to what the mushballs are specifically doing. As we develop our technology and conduct new and wider observations, we grow closer to exploring space and the future. However, uncovering markings and evidence of just how we lost ancient cities reminds us that there is still so much to learn from our past. What do you make of these recent findings? Everybody loves to discover things, whether it is a long-lost family member or friend, an artifact or object that seemed to have vanished long ago, or perhaps even something inside themselves. Discoveries give people a sense of closure, or in some cases open up further mystery. All over the world, things are lost and found, but the most exciting discoveries are of things that are never known to have existed. Unbeknownst to us, are much more important than we may think. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at these three interesting discoveries. Scientists are pretty sure they found a portal to the fifth dimension. Scientists believe they may have found more clues to a possible fifth dimension, which helps in trying to find an explanation for dark matter. Dark matter is hard to detect as it doesn't emit any visible light or energy. Scientists are adamant that this unseen force is a dominant ingredient that makes up the universe. The supposed fifth dimension is currently understood as a dimension where gravity and electromagnetism combine. This new discovery may not turn out to be as exciting as it might seem at first, but scientists believe it will help us to better understand and observe dark matter in the near future, as well as its impact on the universe. Even though dark matter makes up 75% of matter, it has never been observed. By expanding on the theory of a warped extra dimension, which was first stated in 1999, this new research builds on the idea that fermion masses could be entering a fifth dimension using portals, which in turn is creating dark matter. This new research could be a giant leap forward in our understanding of some of the universe's greatest mysteries, which so far have only been for sci-fi and fantasy writers to speculate. Pyramid at El Mirador. El Mirador, located in El Betén, Guatemala, is an ancient site of the pre-Columbian Maya civilization. It translates as the viewpoint or the lookout and sits in the middle of a thick, untouched jungle in the Mirador Basin. It is surrounded by swamps, which the Maya took mud from to create terraces for their farming. The Mirador Basin is about 3 times larger than downtown Los Angeles and houses multiple cities and temples, the largest of which is El Mirador. Researchers consider it to be the oldest and largest Maya site in the entire world. There are 2 pyramids, El Tigre and La Danta, the latter being one of the largest ones in the world. First surveyed in the late 1800s, it took nearly 100 years later for a detailed investigation to finally begin. American archaeologists studied the site and its surrounding geology to create detailed maps and learn about the geography. They were surprised to find that its construction was not similar to other Maya sites in the area. Instead, it seemed to align with pre-classic era styles, which led them to realize just how old and important the site was. It wasn't until 2003 that thorough investigations began, once again led by an American archaeologist. The pyramids in El Mirador were constructed in sections and built to house temples. They were first constructed with stone and then decorated with stucco that depicted Mayan gods and goddesses. Their positioning within the civilization perhaps relates to astronomy and solar alignments. Archaeologists believe the city to be planned, stressing an importance on sacred positionings. The lead archaeologist of the Mirador Basin Project, Richard Hansen, believes that the nearly 50 sites in the basin were part of one of the earliest political states found in Mesoamerica. Some of the world's first freeways can be seen at El Mirador as they used white causeways to link the different cities within the basin. Researchers concluded that El Mirador first began construction in the 6th century BCE up until the 1st century CE. It went they believe that although there were probably hundreds of thousands in population, the inhabitants eventually left due to deforestation destroying the swamps and blocking off access to the prized mud, and then finally abandoned once the Maya civilization came to an end. There is almost no other information on the site, as excavations only recently began. It is in such a remote place, so it was forgotten for some time until harvesters stumbled upon it and reignited the desire to explore it. Despite 2 decades of excavation, only a small portion of the structures have been investigated. Codex Seraphinianus, when it comes to mysterious books, you might immediately picture the most ancient texts possible. However, one book of intrigue was written and illustrated in the 1970s by a man named Luigi Serafini, who was an Italian artist, architect, and industrial designer. By the title of Codex Seraphinianus, this 360-page book is an encyclopedia about a completely imaginary world filled with the strangest images and text in a mysterious and unknown language, almost like a book from another reality depicting an alien world unlike our own. It contains hundreds of hand-drawn illustrations featuring architecture, unique plants and flowers, food, fashion, and many more unusual things. Several of the items closely resemble parallel objects on Earth, such as a fruit that bleeds and a plant that grows to the shape of a chair. Others feature many machines with unrecognizable purposes, maps, human faces, and for completely abstract. What may seem even more bizarre is the writing system. Although it resembles the structure on modern Western writing systems, the letters almost are written like ropes or threads, as if they are strings that can be tied with loops and knots. It almost looks like Sinhala's script, or the writing of the Sinhalese people. Yet the mysterious meaning behind the text and what it means could not be any more different. According to the writer at a talk with the Oxford University Society of Bibliophiles in 2009, he said that the book's text had absolutely no meaning and was a semic. He revealed his purpose for creating such a book was to inspire a sense of awe and surrealness that they are not yet able to understand. Even if that might be true or not, the book's in-depth structure continues to be a source of wonder for thousands of people. In fact, Luigi Serafini is still alive today. From the publication of the Codex up till now, he had been very happy to see a community grow from the book, and while the apparent meaning of the book is still debated, it has brought a bit of mystery and fun back into many people's lives. But what do you make of these 3 interesting discoveries? Yellowstone National Park is one of the most stunning national parks. Every year millions of people make their way to Yellowstone, with park officials saying that visitors increase every year. And although it's a good thing that people are exploring these breathtaking areas, with it comes a risk. Park rangers have said that something they struggle with is trying to ensure that everyone who visits Yellowstone is kept safe. In fact, Yellowstone National Park Superintendent Cam Sholey recently spoke out about this, saying the following: "We have a very, very large problem in a very small percentage of this park. The staff is under a substantial amount of stress that comes with managing that level of visitation." Another thing that park officials have said is that they want to work on ensuring that people are keeping themselves and others safe. However, this is easier said than done. Hundreds of people go missing in national parks every year, some of which have never been solved. The national statistics for missing people has revealed that throughout the United States, around 600,000 people are reported missing every year. Although some of these disappearances are covered by the media, there's some who've said that this story is that many don't know about, and this is because they didn't receive any media attention. As mentioned, it's hard to cover every single disappearance that happens. It is estimated that over 630,000 people are reported missing every year. Although report centers note that the majority of these individuals eventually turn up, which could be the reason why they don't get media coverage. One person submitted their story to Reddit and detailed how their friend went missing in Yellowstone. "I've changed some of the details as this individual may not want to be contacted." They start by saying that their best friend visited Yellowstone National Park back in 1997, and after being in the park for a while contacted the poster and told them that they'd found some treasure. The friend was surprised by this and started to ask questions, but he told him that he couldn't talk and that he was going to rebury the treasure so he could come back another time and dig it up. After several days of not hearing from the friend, the poster said they started to fear the worst. It turns out that several weeks later the friend was found in a creek, with the poster saying that this is where their friend had told them that they were burying the treasure. He also said that when he was found he had drawn out some maps that didn't make any sense, but noted that this could have been done in order to throw people off, and was done in such a way that only he would be able to understand them. At the time of the discovery, the poster said that the creek was only a few inches deep. The official police report said that he had passed away due to falling and drowning. Another mysterious case is that of Bruce Pike. Bruce Pike disappeared in Yellowstone National Park on August 2, 2006. The disappearance of Bruce Pike is perhaps the most mysterious disappearance. Very little is known of Pike, and hardly any information has been released to the public regarding who he was and how he went missing. Yellowstone is one of the most famous, most frequently visited national parks in the continental United States. It receives an estimated 4 million visitors every year, and that number only seems to increase with every passing year. Every single day there's likely to be around 11,000 people inside Yellowstone. Holding its spot has been one of the most visited national parks throughout the United States. With the enormous landscape stretching over 2 million acres, it's common for tourists to find themselves lost, or to wander off their original path. However, these people are almost always found within a few days or even hours, as the park is so heavily monitored. Only 3 people have ever been lost to never be found inside Yellowstone. Bruce Pike just happened to be one of them. What we know was Pike was last seen at the Indian Creek campground on August 2, 2006. His car was found to be abandoned nearby. His story was not covered by the media, and there is no public record of any family members asking for help to find him. Despite this seemingly lack of interest, mysteriously enough, the Texas authorities are participating in an ongoing investigation. He's never been seen or heard from since. Many people walk into a national park and are never seen and heard from again and seemingly vanish. This strangeness is compounded when regarding information surrounding the missing hikers in campus. There are many experienced hikers in campus who disappear completely. Some such hikers even lay out plans of travel, backup phones in cases of emergency, telling family members and friends where their trail will be covering, and so on. But when research parties go out to find them, not a single clue has been left behind to help them. Take, for example, one such case of a young 27-year-old man by the name of Vadim Markham. Vadim had gone out into the area of the Sunset Falls campgrounds with multiple friends and experienced outdoorsmen in the hopes of having a relaxing time out in the national park located near to where he lived. Vadim was no stranger to the outdoors, and it was often common to find him amongst other experienced hikers, campers, and outdoorsmen. Oddly enough, the group of friends spent the day riding mountain bikes and ATVs, having fun before heading back to their cabin. When they were at their cabin at roughly 6 o'clock in the evening, the friends went out in the dark to ride some more. Vadim decided to stay behind to relax a bit, and so told his friends to go on without him. When the friends later returned, only a few hours had passed, but it seemed obvious that something was wrong. Vadim could not be found anywhere. Immediately, the group of friends contacted authorities, but it was apparent that he had mysteriously vanished without a trace. No tracks, no written notes, nothing taken from his equipment. Vadim just disappeared. Over the next few days, search crews of over 100 different volunteers worked tirelessly to search for Vadim and combed the area in rigorous search, but still found no trace of the man even within the search radius of 3 miles. Police found Vadim a few months later, but didn't release any information about how he'd passed away, and the news got very little media attention. So what do you make these discoveries and announcements? Yellowstone is one of the most popular national parks in the United States, coming in second just behind the Great Smoky Mountains. When you think of Yellowstone National Park, a few things might come to mind. Incredible scenery, the famous geyser that erupts several times a day, or the giant supervolcano that lurks beneath the park. One thing that might not come to mind, though, is mysterious humanoids. Yet people who have visited the national park have come forward with their sightings and encounters, saying that they're certain that what they saw was a creature that resembles a human, was covered in fur, and that stood between 7 and 9 feet tall. This creature closely matches that of a Bigfoot, and many people across the United States have said this creature is definitely genuine, but note that it tends to stay out of the way of humans. One of the problems with these types of reports is being able to back them up with evidence. Most people can't, as the majority of these encounters are rushed, leaving the individuals questioning what it was they just encountered. One person, though, was able to capture proof of an alleged Bigfoot inside Yellowstone National Park. Mr. Wilson said the following about the image. I'm an avid watcher of the Yellowstone National Park live cams. I've been fortunate enough to be able to visit these incredible locations many times over my life, and it's always been one of those places where I feel happiest. It's one of the most scenic and beautiful national parks we have, but due to my age and a few other problems, I'm not able to visit as much. In fact, I haven't been here in a while. Something I often do is watch the live cameras that are set up around the park, although I've never seen anything like this before. While watching the camera, I noticed this large-looking human off into the distance. Now bear in mind this image has been zoomed in quite a lot, and there was no one else out there in that region. This thing is tall, and it's the main reason I was able to spot it. In other parts of the national park, I could see people off into the distance, and they looked tiny. This thing really stood out because of how tall it looked against the trees. I know that there have been reports of Bigfoot in and around Yellowstone National Park, and although I've always stayed pretty neutral on the topic, I have a close friend that's told me stories of when he camped in Yellowstone National Park and encountered something he couldn't explain. He is insistent that what he encountered while camping was that of a Bigfoot, and definitely wasn't something like a bison. I'm interested to hear what you think of this, so I've attached the photograph below. Again, I'm not claiming that this is a Bigfoot, but I can't see how it was a human. It stood out so much, and like I said, this creature is really tall against the nearby trees. I watch the live cams a lot, and this is the first time that I've seen a humanoid as large and as wide as this. I'd like to think that I know the difference between a standard human and whatever this is. This is one of the few times that a photograph of Bigfoot in Yellowstone has been captured within the national park. As mentioned earlier, although there's various stories floating around about people's encounters with this creature, very few have been able to photograph what they saw. Bigfoot researchers have said that for years now people visiting the national park have been seeing large hairy creatures, and state that most of these encounters happened during the nighttime of campus. When skeptics have seen these types of images, though, they've said it's important to keep an open mind and say that there's a lot of wildlife within Yellowstone National Park, and have said that people could just be misidentifying everyday creatures as Bigfoot. Although this is true, and that it's important to conduct as much research as possible when looking into these sightings, there's only a certain number of things that can be put forward in order to explain what's been seen. Eyewitnesses who claim that they've seen Bigfoot within Yellowstone say that you can't mix up this creature with that of local wildlife, going on to say that there's no humanoid creature within this region, and certainly not one that's able to reach these kinds of heights. The Sasquatch creature seems to stand somewhere between 8 and 10 feet tall. The creature is believed to have a total arm length of 120% the height of his body, similar to that of an ape-like creature with elongated forearms. Unlike an ape, however, the creature is believed to be bipedal. The bipedal nature of the creature most likely points to the theory of a working voice box, as the head would need to be in a position that allows for bipedal movement. Further evidence shows that the Sasquatch has a massive big toe to help with balancing issues, as it's nearly 3 times in volume in comparison to its size when adjusted for human scale. The Sasquatch is also seemingly covered in hair all over its body. For hundreds of years, mysterious reports have been made about large humanoids. Individuals have come forward with their encounters, and in some cases they even managed to photograph what they saw. However, even though they're seen by thousands of people yearly, scientists have said there's no such creatures, and what people are seeing is mundane things like everyday wildlife. Sightings of this beast have persisted for eons, since the time of the Aborigines and their ancient mythological folklore. What is all the more startling about these claims is that even in the modern day, people are still encountering these creatures. All across the globe, there's been reports of them, from Tibet, America, and even Australia. Although this is the case, people are still torn about what these creatures are, whether there is any substance to these sightings. Photographs have been taken in India, showing what appears to be a mysterious entity walking the streets. The photos were even covered by the news, with them describing it as a large humanoid with long limbs, having a grayish and yellowish body that reflected light, a large head with 2 black eyes, and walking in a mysterious manner. Once the photographs were released, various theories were put forward by locals and those who saw the broadcast. Residents said that the humanoid could be seen walking down a road and walking across a bridge in Jharkhand, which is located in eastern India. The photographs started to emerge on the 28th of May, with residents saying that it could be seen near the newly constructed bridge, but said that they couldn't identify what it was or what it was doing there. Bikers in the region said they stopped to get a better look at it, saying that it stood out due to its skin that reflected their lines. When the photographs were posted to social media, people couldn't seem to agree on what they had captured, with some saying that it looks like an extraterrestrial, while others said it looks like the mythical skinwalker, a creature that's said to have the ability to take on the form of other creatures and disguise themselves, while some suggested it was just a resident in the region. Although some pointed out if this was the case, the locals wouldn't have acted the way they did. Others close to the region said there's been reports of witches throughout the area and claim that this mysterious being may have been a churl. This creature is well known throughout India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, and it's been described as an entity that you wouldn't want to run into. The churl is described as the ghost of an impurified living thing. It is also known as the tree spirit, as it tends to latch onto trees in the jungles of Asia. She allegedly takes on the form of a beautiful woman, luring men she wants revenge on into the woods, only to take their life or cause them to disappear, never to be seen again. Chills are thought to come from women who've experienced an unnatural loss of life. This is often during pregnancy or childbirth, or a suffering at the hands of her in-laws. Often, churros will haunt the men of a certain family as the spirit of a mistreated woman related to them. Once appearing to men, again often in a jungle, the mountains, or other remote places, she removes her cloak of beauty to reveal a monstrous creature. The true form of the churro is a woman with a horrid appearance. Depending on the country from which the legend originates, Chills can have black tongues, no mouth at all, a face that resembles a pig, claw-like hands and fangs. Others suggested that the unknown entity may have been an extraterrestrial, saying that above the creature were strange red lights that was seen flying around the area, with locals saying that it seemed that the two were attached to each other. These mysterious lights worried the locals as they said that the being suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Those who lived close to the bridge suggested that something bad may have happened there, and this is the reason why the entity was seen walking close to it. One idea that was put forward was that the humanoid in question may have been linked to the paranormal. Authorities in Jharkhand have told people to relax and said that they're carrying out their own investigations into what happened, saying that they're currently talking to eyewitnesses who saw the individual and that they hope to get to the bottom of what we've seen. As of right now, though, we have no answers. We only have eyewitness testimonies. Some eyewitnesses took to social media to voice their opinions. One person said the following, "I don't think we're seeing anything strange here. To me, this just looks like someone with bad nutrition. Something that's commonly seen here in India. It's giving off the illusion that it's something else, when I think that all we're seeing is a human that's skinny." Another person went down the route of suggesting it was linked to the mysterious lights. They had this to say, "Why were the mysterious lights seen in the sky just moments before this entity turned up? I think that's strange, and I think it proves that something is going on here. It's likely that we won't be told the truth about what was just seen." End quote. One of the most interesting legends to surface from the country of India, and that led to a full-on investigation from police that spanned for several months, was that of the mysterious ship-shifting walls. Back in 1983, there were reported cases of people from India that suddenly went missing. The police later uncovered that the individuals were taken by reported sightings of mysterious wolves. This didn't make sense at first, as there appeared to be no evidence that large wolves were taking these people, as well as the fact that one father reported a wolf standing up and throwing rocks at him as he tried to run after his family member. These strange reports led many locals to believe that perhaps strange supernatural worshippers were living in the region of the sightings, and that they were ultimately behind the mysterious happenings. Sadly, no concrete evidence was ever uncovered that would help authorities answer what happened, and it's due to these stories that some have said that the same will happen again. There's also various areas spread across India that talk of mysterious entities, with locals saying that during the night in certain areas no one dares to venture outside, saying that those who have often gone missing and are never seen from again. It's one of the reasons why locals will keep their distance if they see something like this. As mentioned though, as of right now, authorities are investigating the matter and have said that once they have an answer for what was seen, they will update the general public. The Hayuboshi forest has been a hotbed of mysterious reports, with the locals saying that stories have been shared for as long as they can remember. It's believed that the legends of the area can be traced back generations, since settlements first arose near the area and discovered the anonymous terror-inducing forest. Claims of vampire entities roaming through the trees, unexplainable lights in the sky that can hover and dance around, demonstrating a peculiar form of intelligence, mysterious sounds of disembodied screams and laughs escaping from the underbrush, and countless other claims that have been made over the years, spawning endless legends and reports of mysterious activity that it is impossible to explain. Even more odd, however, is the clearing that many of the local residents' claims should be avoided. According to local residents, located in the center of the forest is a circular area that opens up into a large clearing where no vegetation seems to grow. Although skeptics will often dismiss the story, as aerial photos of the region show that there's no such clearing anyway throughout the Hayuboshi forest, local residents claim that the circular clearing is not visible from the sky and only becomes visible when a hiker has entered deep into the forest. The clearing is believed to be of supernatural origin and acts as a portal that leads travelers or other hikers to another dimension, which is often offered as an explanation by the locals as to why it appears to be hidden and becomes visible when entered by foot. Unfortunately, those who enter the clearing are believed to never return and become lost in a world completely different to our own. Although a clearing as described by the townsfolk has never been discovered, Tourists who happen to hike through the area claim to report sudden feelings of intense anxiety and nausea that progressively gets worse as they travel closer towards the center of the forest. This forbidding sense of artificial terror and sudden illness manifests in nearly all of those who visit the forest, including tourists who are unaware of the legends and myths surrounding the region. Some hikers have claimed to have spotted mysterious lights hovering over the top of the forest, believing that to possibly be extraterrestrial or supernatural in nature. Extraterrestrial researchers believe that such sightings of unidentified flying objects and the sudden onset of anxiety attacks are evidence of an extraterrestrial origin, as countless witness reports all across the world claim that encounters with extraterrestrial crafts can cause sudden fits of paranoia and panic attacks to manifest from seemingly nowhere. Many often report that when a craft is nearby, whether they are aware of it or not, they will suddenly feel a terrible anxiety and panic overcome them, similar to that experienced in the forest of Harubishu. One such legend is credited with providing the forest with its name. According to the forest's history, a local shepherd by the name of Harubishu was traveling near the forest alongside 200 sheep, his entire flock of livestock, when he suddenly disappeared along with his 200 sheep. It was originally believed that the shepherd was attacked by a passing thief, who dragged the body of the shepherd deep into the woods and stole the livestock for himself, despite the fact that none of the townsfolk saw a trace of the sheep anywhere in the region, with tracks that disappeared into the forest never to be seen again. Similar stories of mass disappearances of sheep also reported during the 1600s, across London and nearby shires. Another strange report surrounding the Hibashi forest was made in 1968, when Emil Bania, a military technician, photographed an image of a massive flying saucer hovering over the tree line of the forest. Bania claimed to have seen the craft hovering for a period of time before snapping a photo and sending it to the local news agency to be published. However, following his sighting, Emile Bernier was ridiculed and made the victim of a smear campaign that tried to discredit him as a military technician and ruin his career as a response to his claim of encountering the unidentified flying object. Although many skeptics today continue to doubt the authenticity of the event, another researcher by the name of Alexandru Sift would also take several images of unidentified flying objects hovering over the forest through the 1960s, with many of the photos predating Emile's encounter in 1968. Using the gathered images, Romanian ufologist Ion Habana, joint author to UFOs Behind the Iron Curtain, conducted his own investigation into the matter and found a number of interesting facts related to the case. After meeting Emile Barnier twice, once in 1968, immediately after his publication of the images, and then again in 1970 when doing a follow-up investigation, Ion Habana claimed that Emile knew nothing about flying saucers, unidentified flying objects, extraterrestrial encounters, or alien reports, showing no interest whatsoever in the topic. Ion Habana believed that Mr. Emile Barnier Mill reported the UFO to the local news under the belief that the craft was possibly invasive or clandestine in its construction, and not that it had any relation whatsoever to extraterrestrials. Though many skeptics continue to believe that Mill was merely hoaxing the event, it's important to note that books on ufology or similar topics were not made available for sale or printing in Romania during the 1960s. Ion Habana also noted that the hoax explanation was completely outlandish, stating that at the time in Romania, there was no possibility of sending documents of any kind to local news agencies, and their publication implied no financial benefit to the author, so it would have been impossible for the photographer to hoax the images for financial profit. Ion Habana would later reach out to photographic analysis Belgian G. Delconte to conduct an independent investigation on the image, saying the following: "The analysis of Belgian G. Delcops is in this respect extremely interesting and instructive, not only by its conclusions, but also by the seriousness and the precision which characterizes it." Unfortunately, Delcops examined only the first two photographs. He noticed that in picture number 2, the UFO could not be at 85 degrees above the horizon, as stated by Benia, but at around 30 degrees only. In the number 1 photograph, it's 20 degrees above the horizon, and the calculable diameter is 22.3 meters, which was obtained by calculations and comparisons with the trees and the solid masses. It left the assumption that the machine on photograph number 2 was within 600 meters of the photographer. It's obviously possible since other calculations gave a value ranging between 300 and 480 meters for the altitude. End quote. So what do you make of these mysterious stories? The ultimate goal of NASA is to find signs of life out in the universe. We've sent various messages out into the cosmos, with one of the most well-known ones being that of the Voyager Golden Records. President Jimmy Carter said the following: "This is a present from our small distant world, a token of our sounds, our signs, our images, our music, our thoughts, and our feelings. We are attempting to survive our time so we may live into yours." NASA continued with the following on their website: "A golden phonograph record was attached to each of the Voyager spacecraft. One of the purposes was to send a message to extraterrestrials who might find the spacecraft as the spacecraft journeyed through interstellar space. In addition to pictures and music and sounds from Earth, greetings in 55 languages were included." NASA asked Dr. Carl Sagan of Cornell University to assemble a greeting and gave him the freedom to choose the format and what would be included, end quote. There's some articles going around social media at the moment saying that a NASA satellite has received an SOS message from a distant galaxy, although the space agency has said this isn't true. They've admitted that we have received some strange signals from the cosmos, some of which haven't been that far from us. Although NASA and other space agencies have said that we've never made contact with an advanced species, some have been a little more open-minded. Scientists, for example, have admitted that fast radio bursts are somewhat of a mystery, saying that an FRB is a radio pulse of a length that only lasts for a few milliseconds. But as of right now, the astrophysical process is not yet understood. Something somewhat out in the deep vastness of space is some strange, anomalous, mysterious object that continues to throw out extremely large blasts of radio waves out from around it in all directions, traveling at the speed of light. Fast radio bursts, referred to as FRBs, have always been a mystery for astronomers and scientists in the field trying to understand the strange nature of the cosmos. But this new finding might help to shed light onto what might be causing these strange signals. When astronomers turned their attention to the possible source of this vast radio burst, they discovered an area with an extremely strong magnetic field, ultimately suggesting that these FRBs come from an unexplainable object that exists in a very intense galactic environment, containing an extremely strong magnetic source. Scientists are still trying to understand what could be causing this extreme magnetic source, and not many theories have arisen since its discovery back in January of 2018. The lead researcher on the matter, Emily Petrov, working out of the Netherlands Institute for Radio Astronomy, claimed that researchers are directly probing the local environment of a source in a distant galaxy, said to be responsible for this matter more than 3.8 billion light-years away. Recently, scientists have come forward and announced that a mysterious radio signal has caught their attention. This is because the signal has made itself known for the 5th year in a row. What's so mysterious about these signals is that usually we're not able to track them, but the team behind the study have managed to track the signal to a spiral galaxy. This galaxy in question is said to be 495 to 505 million light-years from our planet, and that it's most likely linked to the mysterious fast radio bursts that have confused researchers for years. One of the astronomers who was working on the case said the following about the signal's discovery: "This object's location is radically different from alternative to the previously located repeating fast radio bears, but also all previously studied fast radio bears. This blurs the difference between repeating and non-repeating fast radio bears. It may be that FRBs are produced in a large suite of locations across the universe, and just require some specific conditions to be visible. This has caused some people to put forward the idea that these signals have been sent out by other civilizations. Although this sounds like an out-there theory, this is very possible, with scientists even coming forward and saying that it can't be ruled out. One of these that's confused scientists is that of FRB 121102. This vast radioverse did not seem to match the FRBs of previously pulsar data collection, leading many to believe that the stranger anomaly was actually that of an extraterrestrial civilization. This FRB is known as FRB 121102, and despite being more than 3 billion light-years away, has consistently sent up more than 15 steady FRBs towards our planet. Currently, the SETI project is working to detect the next radio burst to try and decipher if it has an alien meaning, as previous data shows that it's far too consistent and repetitive to be a standard pulsar. Interestingly, most of these signals have only been a one-off, but this one keeps trying to make itself known, and researchers are aware that it could be trying to get our attention. One of these signals was tracked by the Chimmy experiment in Canada. Researchers here have managed to pick up on 8 new fast radio bursts. A worldwide team discovered 4 more fast radio bursts and was able to track them to a spiral galaxy called SDSSJ 015800.28 plus 654530. Incredibly, one of these fast radio bursts was over 3 billion light-years away. To put that into perspective, our galaxy is 100,000 light-years in diameter. So what do you make these interesting discoveries? And do you think there's other life forms out in the cosmos? Humans are explorers. Since the dawn of civilization, we have sought adventures and brand new discoveries. Our thirst for knowledge knows no bounds. This has never been truer than now, as we prepare to traverse the cosmos. So today we'll be taking a look at 3 space-based discoveries. Hitian exoplanets could be home to alien life. Astronomy is the first science humans have ever studied. For tens of thousands of years, our understanding of the stars has developed. We admire, revere, and fear the cosmos before us, as did our ancestors. Even now, scientists continue to discover brand new things in our own solar system. The Earths and Venuses of space, it seems, are rarities. The majority of planets in other solar systems are what some scientists have deemed mini-Neptunes. These mini-Neptunes are in between being a gas giant and a rugged dwarf, small versions of our huge icy planets. Unfortunately, as mini-Neptunes are far from us, we have not yet developed a way to study them up close, thus shrouding them in mystery. It seems that they possess incredibly thick atmospheres full of built-up, merciless pressure, which suggests there is far more hidden underneath than simply bundles of helium or hydrogen. Recently, a team of experts on exoplanet research have challenged the view that many Neptunes may not be like Neptune. Using a model, their research revealed that atmospheric pressures of these planets very well allow for oceans to exist on their surfaces for billions of years. With the potential for water comes the potential for alien life, or at the very least, for alien microbes to exist. Dr. Nikumat Huseddin, who is an astronomer at the University of Cambridge, has stated, "This result greatly expands our chances of finding life." By using the host star, astronomers are able to estimate the mass of an exoplanet to determine whether it is made of gas or rock, but it is near impossible to determine whether it has a solid or gas core. Except in 2019, thanks to the Hubble Space Telescope, astronomers were able to glimpse into the atmosphere of K2-18b, one of these mini-Neptunes, and discovered evidence of clouds and water vapor. Furthermore, just last year, it was announced that there is a possibility that one of these planets could have enough water to sustain earthly life. In Madhusudan's words, "For the first time, we demonstrated that planets can be significantly larger than Earth and still have livable conditions." The desired outcome for astronomers is to find an Earth-like planet on which we could thrive. To find the ideal Earth twin, which unfortunately is much easier said than done, considering this planet would have to be around the same mass as Earth, the same size, orbit, and either too far from the host star as the oceans would freeze or too close for the oceans would boil. While planets such as K2-18b could surely have Earth-like life on them, Madhusudan has stated it is not best to assume that these planets' conditions will be suitable for humans. Currently, the task is to find alien life, not to find another suitable habitat for ourselves. Hitian worlds are planets with thick and heavy atmospheres that are abundant with hydrogen, which allows for oceans to exist and flourish even under immense amounts of heat that befall the planet. This is the name given to the mini-Neptunes that match the description of potential life-having planets. Icean planets tend to be fully composed of water with no continents and often have permanent mist rising from the heated waters. Further research into exoplanets may reveal the truth to us within the next handful of years as we develop and establish what we truly mean by habitable. Bjorn Bennick from the University of Montreal claims that we, as a species, have far too high expectations and we have an idea of finding Earth 2.0. There may be other ways of finding other life. That is not dinosaurs crawling around on the surface. Even though it is not the easiest thing to do, these Hessian mini-Neptunes can be tested. There are countless mini-Neptunes in space, and based on their positions and surroundings we will be able to correctly guess whether they have a chance of being habitable or not. According to Benaki, even if only 5% of the mini-Neptune Hessians match the requirements, it would still give scientists an incredible number of planets to investigate. Is being studied closely by researchers in hopes of finding more of these Hessian worlds. 2021 PH27 is the fastest asteroid in our solar system. Asteroids are nothing new. They are space rocks that orbit stars and planets in our universe. Our very own sun has an asteroid of its own. It turns out 2021 PH27, which orbits in only 113 days. Unquestionably, this is the shortest known orbital timescale for any asteroid and the second shortest when it comes to objects in our solar system, beaten only by Mercury's immensely fast orbit. 2021 PH27 was found by Scott S. Shepard with images taken by Ian Del Antonio and Shen Ming Fu. Shepard stated about the asteroid, most likely 2021 PH27 was dislodged from the main asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars, and the gravity of the inner planets shaped its orbit into its current configuration. Although based on its large angle of inclination of 32 degrees, it is possible that 2021 PH27 is an extinct comet from the outer solar system that ventured too close to one of the planets as the path of its voyage brought it into proximity with the inner solar system. It is the size of a kilometer and its orbit is unstable, passing through Venus's and Mercury's orbits, which suggests in a few million years it will collide with one of them and be destroyed, or potentially ejected from its orbit into outer space. Being aware of asteroids in our solar system is vital in order to protect ourselves from potential threats that could collide with our green planet. Unfortunately, asteroids such as this one are difficult to notice because they approach Earth during daylight hours, not during the night. Soon it will orbit behind the sun and be unnoticeable from Earth until next year. The best thing to do is to take images near sunrise or sunset when it comes to trying to observe objects placed close to the sun. As explained by Dave Thalin of the University of Hawaii, because the object was already in the sun's glare and moving more toward it, it was imperative that we determine the object's orbit before it was lost behind our central star. I surmise that for an asteroid this size to remain hidden for so long, it must have an orbit that keeps it so near to the sunday that it is difficult to detect from Earth's position. Further images of this asteroid were taken using the Magellan telescopes at the Las Campanas Observatory in Chile. Astronomers are hoping that further research of this will help us understand the laws of orbit better and to discover more about 2021 PH27's personal history and where it originated. Jupiter's wind speed is increasing. For centuries, the planets of our solar system have fascinated astronomers, Jupiter being at the forefront of intrigue. To this day, there is much we do not know about the mysterious gas giant. Recent analysis from NASA's Hubble telescope suggests that the speed of the planet's great red spot winds have increased in their velocity compared to the speeds from the previous decade. The Hubble telescope is set to produce regular storm reports of the planet. The overall pace of Jupiter's winds rose by a shocking 8% since 2009, meaning that the current winds exceed a pace of over 400 miles an hour, although the speed of the storm's vortex moves at a significantly slower pace since the outer storm circles are significantly more agile than the center. Some scientists argue that the change is minuscule, however, with Amy Simon, one of NASA's scientists, stating, "We're talking about such a small change that if you didn't have 11 years of Hubble data, we wouldn't even know it happened." The Great Red Spot has been baffling scientists for 150 years now, since its discovery in the 1870s. As of now, the storm's diameter is 10,000 miles, thrice that of Earth. According to Michael Wong from the University of California, it's only due to the Hubble. This is something only Hubble can do. Hubble's longevity and ongoing observations make this revelation possible. Utilizing the data from Hubble Space Telescope, Michael Wong used a wind tracking software to ensure that the winds have changed, the results clearly backed by the research. Back in 2017, NASA's astronomers also found a sudden unexpected altercation in the wind speeds nearby a major storm, though the reason for the spike is unknown. The speed of the Great Red Spot is not the only thing about it that is changing, however, as observations have proven its size is slowly changing as well. A century ago it was an evident oval shape, but now it resembles almost an ideal circle. With brand new research into our universe, there is much to be excited about. The prospects of habitable planets, uncovering more of Jupiter's mysteries, and discovering new asteroids are all extraordinary things that can help us expand our knowledge of the we call home. But what do you make of these interesting space discoveries?